we are having a keynote speaker, Allie Hearns, who has done a lot of work for us in the SELB framework and in the equity framework, so she's.
Is that the 12th?
Whatever Friday
Ninth.
is.
It's
Ninth.
Friday.
Whatever Friday is,
Oh,
Gary.
Friday.
Hey, I think, what time does breakfast start, like 7:30 or 7 at 7:15? So, and then we'll be in the auditorium at 8 o'clock.
And I'll be doing an hour-long PowerPoint, welcome. Okay, so before we move.
That's not showing.
So it's very exciting, all the comments and all your goals within, concurrently with the buildings being brought up to speed with that vision and the team effort. It's just a very exciting time. This is my 6th year, and this has been in the works for 6 years, so it's a very exciting time, and we're really grateful. We look forward to seeing all the great work. Finance Committee update, Linda.
Okay, so the Finance Committee met on July 15th, and members present were myself and Will Austriaco. It's called order at 5 p.m., no public comments. We did go over the tentative budget. Ms. Kalu briefly highlighted the budget, and of course we had the public hearing today. The tentative budget has a surplus of $1.5 million without the timing of construction and preparing for the sale of bonds. In addition, the salaries have remained within the CPI, and health insurance is growing at a slow rate. There may be a few changes to the final budget, and that would be in the areas of grants, CPPRT, IMRF rate, and property liability insurance. We also did a little bit of a policy review. We continued the process of converting our policy manual to the press. We went over policy 4.110, which deals with vehicles, and we approved the revised, the approved revised policy will be included in the student handbook. We also went over policy 4, we also changed over policy 4.170, which includes AED and first responder information, and the bulk of those procedures we are already doing. Policy 4.4:180, pandemic preparedness is being separated as policy and procedure and follows process well. And we're going for a first reading today. Ms. Kalu also discussed and reviewed the property tax refunds and assessments. The tax assessments are showing a significant increase in property tax appeals from the past. The largest taxpayers include office complexes, nursing homes, and shopping centers. Current appeals are being settled from 2014, 16, and 2019 appeals should settle in the 22-23 year. The Finance Committee was adjourned at 5:46 p.m.
Thank you. All right, buildings and grounds update, Karen.
Sure. The Buildings and Grounds Committee met on July 15th, 2019, and members present were myself and Aurora Austriaco. And called the meeting to order at 5:39. There were no public comments, and Pepper and White walked through all of the changes, most of the changes that were done to the construction phasing plans, as well as the timeline over the next few years. And we spent about an hour talking about it at the meeting. White is in the schematic design process, and we'll bring updates in August. And then Dave Ulm talked about the TEM contract, which is, explained that more information is needed on the scope of work for the construction asbestos removal. And this is something that we need to do before a contract is created, because we need to get firm costs before that happens. So construction phasing is in process. Once completed, a determination of the amount of asbestos removal needed, and then we move forward. And then the meeting was adjourned at 6:50 p.m.
Thank you. Monthly status of finances, Mary?
In your board packet is the unaudited June financial statements. And I say unaudited because we're in that time of year where we're converting from a cash basis to an accrual basis. So they're not full accrual yet, but they're not quite cash. On the revenue side, you can see where we have some variances is due to interest income being greater than anticipated, and those funds that are heavily receive interest income, you'll see a greater variance there. On the flip side, those funds that are heavily property tax based, you'll see that they're slightly under budget because our refunds are greater than budget. On the expenditure side, the majority of funds are in line with the budget or slightly below budget. We have one fund, capital projects, that is over budget, and that's the timing of construct. We're already starting to pay a little bit for the referendum construction. We obviously did not know that when the budget was adopted last September, because the referendum hadn't even passed. And then the fire prevention life safety fund is roofing, and that's surely dependent upon how much work gets done in June versus July. And with the rain we've seen this summer, not as much work got done in July, and a lot of it got done, in June, and most of it got done in July. I will entertain any questions that anybody has on the June financial statements.
Mary, can we go back to 2E? You had a construction update as well.
Yes, so in your board packet is the construction memo. When we provided the update, we spent a lot of July talking about phasing. So we met with each building to kind of outline what construction will happen during what summer and what construction can happen during the summer. And that was, I would say, phasing meeting 1, because now we're developing phasing meeting 2, which will actually take individual spaces and talk about what happens to that individual space. Where, is it just being refreshed? Is it moving to a new part of the building, and therefore, when is that new part of that building getting done? So do they need a temporary home? And if they need a temporary home, where is that temporary home going to be? And all the finite details that take into account all of the phasing. Because there are times when, you're vacating a space, but your new home won't be ready for 2 years. Or there's times when you're vacating a space and your new home won't be ready for 6 months. So we're transitioning all of that, and that's been taking a lot of time. White continues to work on design. Pepper right now is doing their cost estimates. So not this week, but next week, we will have a 2-day cost estimation summit. So that's when we go through building by building and take a look at all of the cost estimates based on the design as it is now. And the first estimate design was square footage. This estimate, there's narrative about what that square footage looks like, what are the types of finishes. So there's greater and greater amount of detail. Therefore, the estimate will become a much greater in terms of the accuracy of it, because there's more finite to what is actually being built than just a square footage. And that information will come to the Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting in August and to the board in September. So we've always done Buildings and Grounds first and then the board. As we look forward to the future, we'll have budget estimates and we'll start to see phase 1 design for the board to approve probably in October.
And will White present then? Or
White will present then, so
October, you said?
probably,
Okay.
yes.
Because it would be good for the full board to have a presentation.
Yes, it's gonna be, and once we know how long that will be, you'll decide whether it's at a regular board meeting or if you want a dedicated board meeting to that.
This is an important part of our life for the
It is an
next 3 to 5
important part,
years,
and
so
it is,
we need to get-
and we have 3 schools getting a lot of work done. And phase 1 is rather extensive.
So we'll be able to determine then how often we want to do it, when it makes sense. We rely greatly on your discernment on that as well.
And then this is the presentation or the information that will get posted publicly tomorrow morning.
Thank you. All right, Sean, instructional services.
No report this month.
Okay. Other items. FOIA requests.
For this month, all processed.
And then the Board of Education policies, the 4 series, first reading, Mary.
So policy 410 is transportation. It updates the existing policy to the press policy. It makes sure all the legal requirements regarding homeless and busing schedules and safety, folks pre-trip or post-trip, a lot of the information, because we contract out, we require our vendor to do in terms of the busing. But this now complies with press, as stated during the Finance Committee meeting update. One of the things that took these policies so long is the number of procedures associated with it. So if we saw that a procedure was to go into the student handbook, we wanted to make sure that that is what happened.
Okay.
But 410 is not an extensive policy, it talks about the legal requirements.
And what was changed, if anything, on the AED part?
No, that's in
4170.
safety and security, that's 4170.
Right.
So 4170, we used to have policies that addressed AEDs and policies that address safety and security, and press pulls them all together in 4170. So
Oh,
4170 just took a whole bunch of pieces of different policies and put them under one safety umbrella. So all of the AED information did not change, but what we wanted to make sure is that if you look at the best practice procedures, that we were implementing that we had maps identifying where all the AEDs were, that we had the trained AED users list with all of those maps, and those were readily available. So you'll see where in the buildings more directed at where everything is, so that people just get familiar with the locations of the AEDs should they ever have to be used. It also talked about, you know, it took the soccer safety goals,
Yeah.
emergency school closings, all of the required drills, the incorporation of the annual review of the building emergency operating procedures, which we also then updated all the emergency building operating procedures so that they would comply with all of the 17 elements that the state recommends that they include.
so are there any safety and security policies outside of 411?
No, but there are probably 85 pages of procedures that the board does not adopt, but that get implemented to support this policy. And that's really what we spent the bulk of the year working on, those procedures that are kind of the day-to-day workings of this policy.
Mary, is the Alice procedure for active shooters, is that a press, is that included? in
So
the policy?
press
I don't
does
remember
not-
seeing that specifically.
Press nor the state of Illinois, the requirement is that every school within 90 days of the start of the school year have an active shooter drill.
Doesn't have to be Alice.
Does not have
It
to
doesn't
be
have to be
Alice. We have
Alice, okay.
chosen to implement Alice
Okay,
as our active shooter training.
okay. I just didn't see it, but it's there under procedure then?
Right, so
Okay.
if you, and it's, actually the procedure is generic enough to an active shooter drill, because Alice might not be the methodology that somebody uses in 5 years, but we meet the law, which is the active shooter drill.
All right, anything else?
And then pandemic preparedness is essentially what our existing policy was, but our policy included all of the procedures, so we separated pandemic preparedness into policy and procedure. So everything that you see struck through is actually now going into a procedure.
All of our policies are cleaned up across the board.
Yeah.
It's been a large couple of years of work, so thank you for finishing these up. All right, do I have a motion on the consent agenda, items 7, 8, and F? Second. Roll call?
Austriaco?
Aye.
Collins? Aye. Whale? Aye. Lee?
Aye.
Yusuf Abramson?
Aye.
Bessler?
Aye. Okay, do I have a motion on number 8, intergovernmental agreement, Niles Township District Special Education, NDES? Second. Okay.
This is an annual amount, it's actually lower than it's been for a couple of years. These are students who are educated, Niles Co-op, the other guys, we've always had a few of them here. This is just the annual.
And is it lower because it's calculated per student?
We have, I remember a few years ago, $500,000, so there's just, these are high-cost kids, very, very good students.
cost of attendance of these has gone down because we're accommodating one schools, or we just have less of those students?
Could be both. Could be that we definitely increase our ability to accommodate increasingly needy students. But it could also, the difference of one or two students, these are 100 kids, kids. So they're, they're very, very much there.
Remember, we had it.
Yeah, they're very expensive.
Any questions? Roll call.
Yusuf Abramson. Lee. Coyle. Collins. Austriaco. Bessler.
Aye. Can I have a motion on number 9? District 207 Administrative District NSERF Budget 2019-2020 fiscal year. Mary, did you want to share?
As the administrative agent of NSERF, part of our duties is to make sure that the 207 board adopts the NSERF budget. The vast majority of the revenue from NSERF flows through to the member districts. They have an administrative assistant and a director who oversees the program. If adopted, this budget will be filed with the Illinois State Board of Education by
Any questions? Is it about the same?
It's roughly the same. The grants really have not been increasing.
In fact, it went down a little bit
Yeah,
this
I
year,
mean-
so this is all based upon what the federal government and state government released for that.
I didn't get a chance to hear it. Roll call.
Collins. Austriaco. Lee. Yusuf Abramson. Coyle. Bessler.
Aye. I'm going to separate out 10. Do I have a motion on 10A, the cap for room rental fees?
Second.
Yeah, you just pretty clear, but.
Yeah, it's the same one we've done before, it's providing programming for all of our students.
Anybody have any questions? Roll call.
Coyle. Austriaco. Yusuf Abramson. Collins.
Abstain.
Lee.
Aye.
Bessler.
Aye. All right, do I have a motion on item 10B, Excel Edge reduction of room rental fees at Insight?
Second.
And these are just for PSAT prep classes, Ben?
Yeah,
Is there
same
anything
one
more?
we've done for quite a while, that all students can access.
Any questions? Okay, roll
Do
call.
you have anything on Main West or much on Main?
Yes, just not the same one.
Good question. All right, roll call.
Lee.
Aye.
Yusuf Abramson. Collins.
Aye.
Coyle. Austriaco.
Aye.
Bessler.
Aye. Do I have a motion on 11A and B, approval of bids and awarding of contracts? We can do this together.
So moved.
Second. George, second.
Sorry.
We're good, we're good. Sean, do you want to just?
Yeah,
share
so
with
the
us?
first one is another e-textbook contract. As you can see, they're for AP level books. So it's in the amount of $80,910. And that will enable students to have an online book for those classes.
Is that a new vendor?
It's not new. I think it's the first time they may have come up in recent memory
Okay.
for these.
It's just their name, they ring a bell. Okay.
They're not your typical Pearson or
No.
St. James.
Yeah.
So what percentage of AP participants students will be able to utilize, access that anyway?
I honestly don't know the percentage. It's all based upon which of these courses you enroll in. So I don't have enrollment numbers in front of me. But it's for three AP courses. What I can tell you is that of the three, probably the most popular one of those three is AP Psych, and that enrollment has gone up significantly in the last 2 to 3 years. The other, I don't know if, John, you want to speak to our other, this is a tech contract, if you have questions maybe from John related to that.
You want to share, John?
Sure, we have a purchase in there for a storage array. It's part of our approved budget already, we're just calling it out because of the cost. It should double our current storage and prepare us for our next wave of servers that we're planning to purchase in the 2021 school year.
So the average budget for previous years, last 3 years or so?
Yeah, I think the last time we purchased something similar is when we bought our SimpliVity nodes, and that had storage included in it already, and that was, I think, $450,000. So we are stepping away from SimpliVity, and the storage piece helps us step away from that.
You're stepping away from what? You're stepping away from-
SimpliVity is now owned by HPE. It's what our storage arrays and our server hardware, basically the brand name of it. And as part of our planned upgrade for our server infrastructure, we're not going to be using SimpliVity servers anymore next year. We're going to start phasing those out.
And then when you go out for this, do we bid or do we comparison shop?
This is the lowest price storage array on the market. We got 3 bids already. We're presenting the lowest price one that worked for what we need.
Were they in-state supplier or out-of-state supplier? The company?
This company is in California. Yeah.
So,
Go ahead. No, I just, real quick, John, so relative to the server technology, is that something that, I mean, in this investment, is this something that you see pretty stable for the next 5 years?
Yeah.
Or do you see it as, like, the world's just gonna change in 2 months, you know?
The big
I
things
mean,
that
I
change,
really don't know.
the big things that change is using cloud infrastructure for backups and disaster recovery, which we're starting to do. This kind of thing, we're always gonna need in-house storage. All of our student information files get stored there, all of our teacher files, all that stuff gets stored in-house. And backups, we're gonna start going more to the cloud. Some servers are gonna go to the cloud where we're paying, like, you pay host as a service. We're doing less of that because it's more expensive. So because we have the infrastructure, because we have the fiber between all the buildings, we're able to save a little bit of money and host everything in-house and not use those cloud services. So, yeah, this kind of, what we see is this storage array would probably last us 4 or 5 years of production, and then we would phase it to use it for backups. So we probably get a longer than expected life out of it.
Thanks.
So, there are no maintenance fees for this? Is it because we're doing it in-house?
Yeah, included in that price is a 5-year support cost. And why we chose this particular storage array is because it's based on open source software. So there's no, like, other storage arrays that we use NetApp for our security camera feeds, and we have to pay yearly licensing for that. Otherwise, if you don't pay that, they shut off the license features and you can't get updates and things like that. So we're looking to try this model where we don't have to pay these licensing fees and we can continue to use the hardware.
Yeah, and that would be how much saving if we actually.
It's a huge savings, yeah.
Substantial,
Mhm.
right?
Might be something for a future board meeting. I know we've had some on our plans and the technology and how it's shifting, but it might be something yearly to update it because it shifts so quickly.
I would love that idea of just saying, where is educational technology going in the next 10 years?
We'd
Or
love to have
something like that would be wonderful.
You hack the shit out of it.
We won't make you do it, John.
No. Get out your
Yeah, could you
crystal
do it now?
ball.
All right, let's take a roll call on it. Or any other questions? Roll call?
Collins,
Aye.
Coyle. Austriaco. Yusuf Abramson.
Aye.
Lee. Bessler.
Aye. Okay. Take note of the calendar items. Anybody have any questions or changes? Note that the next board meeting is the day after Labor Day, so it's a Tuesday. It's not the following week, it's the day after.
Why did you choose to do?
I don't know.
This started a while ago.
It's not that way.
It's following Monday.
Whereas others ones was
Right.
yeah.
Is that something that you get, if you want to retain that, we can certainly change it.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Any other items, informational? Any other public comments? Can I have a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of review of closed session minutes, appointment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employees?
Austriaco. Collins.
Aye.
Coyle.
Aye.